I've had a difficult time accessing feeling anger since as long as I can remember. I can feel frustrated and irritated, sure, but anger seems to be something that I can't access, feel, express. As I mentioned in my intro, I've gone through deep with most emotions, and yes, I did experience fear around anger. Sorry, oh, feel angry around angry people as a child, but I'm wondering if there is actual anger deep down in me somewhere, or might there be people that just don't have a lot of anger in them? I've been in safe spaces where the goal was to express, release anger, rage, but I had to fake it. I'm open to the idea that there is a deep fear that blocks me, but I've been very loving, patient with that part of my subconscious to help it to come to the surface, but nothing has come from it. I don't feel like I'm a ticking bomb when it comes to that emotion either. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but it has never come up when under the influence in the past either. Is there a possibility that I just don't have a lot of anger in me? Or might it be so deeply blocked, repressed that I can't sense it at all? Yes. So definitely, especially if I'm guessing that it has been, you know that it's been suppressed your whole life, which is exactly like me. And so I've got a lot of experience with this, so I can tell you a few things that even more recently, I'll give you an example. This is kind of how the mind works, how consciousness works with this stuff. So, if she was listening to the beginning, when the police stopped me and they gave me a ticket, right? I felt so powerless because there's nothing you can do, right? They're an authority and you don't want to make it any worse, right? You don't want to be taken to jail. So I felt utterly powerless. There comes the police officer and he says, give him, driver's license, whatever. And then he's writing the ticket. And I literally couldn't do anything. I said something like, is there no way? Like, is there no way? Like, can you just, a warning? And he said no. And he wrote the ticket. So I'm going to walk you through what happened in there. So I felt powerless. I didn't like the feeling. But in that moment, I still couldn't feel the anger. So the anger came a few minutes later. So that happened. I felt powerless. I didn't like it. Then he went away and I drove off. And then very slowly, I started to feel anger, but it was like tiny, tiny, tiny. And then I'm like, okay, let me give attention to this. And then I had done it so much that I have to say that I've done a lot of rage exercises, so it comes very easily for me. But I'm trying to show you how it can be very deceptive that it's like, oh, I don't have much anger. So when I parked the car, I was with my mom and I told her, "Can you please, walk in front of me because I'm going to have to literally explode here in the car." And of course, nobody can be around. So she went for her walk and then I kind of and then it started coming and it was like an atomic bomb. Remember, like I just said, I've opened myself up to the rage. And so it went from like this thing. And right before it started to get big, I literally thought, I think there's not much of it because I couldn't feel it. I literally was like, maybe I'm just like mildly annoyed. And suddenly it was like a switch. And at this point, I had done so much rage exercise that to me, there's no limit. There's nothing that I can't do in my mind. So I screamed at the loudest that I could scream, and I said things like that I wish I could kill the officer, like kill his whole family. And I just became that rage, that violence. And it took me three explosions. So I had to breathe after the first explosion, then do the second one and the third one. By the time I did the third one, which I screamed and I did this whole thing with my body, it suddenly disappeared. And so I even was kind of like, is it like gone that quickly? Like it can't be. Like I wasn't even feeling upset anymore about the ticket. It was just gone. And so I wanted to share that to show you how consciousness works. It can seem 100% like, oh, I don't have much. And then if you're open enough, suddenly you're like, oh my God, this is how it works. If I'm open enough, I realize that there's actually like this mountain. Um, the other thing that I want to say is, so she said she's been to retreats, so this is particularly difficult for her. Like it's very, very suppressed if she went to a retreat. So it's good that you try to fake it because you're trying, right? But what I would say is this. First, there's so much rage, and therefore, eventually, if you have the interest, the curiosity, and the will to kind of keep looking, it has to come up because it is there, right? It's not fantasy, it's not imagination, it's there. And so what I would do is I would become curious about it and see it as something that's going to take a long time, so there's no pressure. Throughout your day, notice if you're getting annoyed at things. Like you said, I can get irritated. And then play with faking it, because something tells me if you do it enough times, there's like this energy and it's like it's kind of blocked. And then you're playing and you're faking it and you're faking it. But if even the desire to see it already does something. It's almost like our whole body and nervous system knows. You're almost commanding it in a way. I want to see it. It might take a while, but if you keep trying, I think that's the key with this entire journey is you keep trying. If you get bored of it, whatever it is, if you want to stop a little bit, stop, but then continue, right? Take a few days off if you're like, I've had enough of this, but you always have to go back. The only way that something is going to move is this constant going back to it. And so play with it. Even like, I don't know if she did that in the retreat, but like having an explosion of like that, like your body suddenly doing something like that. And even if it feels fake, it doesn't matter because I'm telling you, it's going to eventually arise. So this has to do with having the curiosity and the patience over a long period to keep coming back to the same topic and making an angry face and all of what would this, even if it's fake, what would an angry person say? Right? So I've spoken to her before. I think she's married. She has a husband. I'm sure there are things that he does that are going to like trigger some irritation. So what if he said something to you, you notice that you're irritated, then he can't hear you, he can't see you. Even if it feels fake, why don't you say something really, really bad? Right? Like, I effing hate you. I wish you would, fall down the stairs. That's pretty bad. But something extreme that you've never said before. So I think this is very important.
To yourself, by the
To
way.
yourself, exactly. Just to say that again. This is all of this stuff is always done alone because if somebody hears you, that's not good, right? This is done completely alone. You know that they cannot hear you and they can't see you. Um, so what I was going to say is if you've never said something that bad or evil, right? I hope you fall down the stairs. I hope you die. Maybe if he's going to drive, that's really, really intense. I know, but I'm saying this because of the level of what seems to be the suppression. So maybe you need something a little bit more extreme. So if you even try that in your mind and you are met with immense resistance, like if he can't hear you and see you, but you could say it out loud, like you're going to use your voice, like I wish you would die. I wish something like that. If immediately you find yourself not even being able to say the words out loud, then you've hit gold, which means that, oh, this is what I don't want to say. So there could be shame. We've talked about shame, which is if I say this, am I going to be attacked? Is something horrible going to happen to me? And so if there is fear, if there's great resistance, that is the way to go. And again, if it's overwhelming, do it slowly, stop, but come back to it, and then see if you can take it deeper. What I do nowadays, because there's like pretty much no resistance anymore, I do it in real time. So if I'm with someone and they did something to me, it doesn't matter if it doesn't even make sense, right? They didn't even do anything bad, but to me, I didn't like it. I'll literally turn around and they're in the same space with me, and I'll say silently like something with my mouth, like I hate you or something like that. But they can't hear it, of course. And so that's how I think you start unraveling this thing.
Yeah. And so the thing about seeing whether resistance is an exercise in honesty, because it also doubles up as like you can start to see whether your ego, as in your sense of self, really has a thing about not being an angry person. Because even the way that you sort of worded the question is almost like uh not necessarily wanting to be seen as not an angry person, but like you can experiment with that. Like, is there a desire in your ego, your sense of self, to not be angry, to not be seen as angry? These kind of things. Is being angry bad? And with these mild irritations, I always see them as like I imagine like the ground and there's like something poking up like here, and this is an irritation, this tiny thing above the surface. But then when you like start to pull at it, there's like all this immense like roots and everything like down here. So you could just, if something irritates you, notice it and then just stay with it a bit longer. Like, how much did it really irritate you? What could you say that sort of fulfills that irritation a bit more than normal? Like,
Yeah.
if it could be like you drop a mug on the floor and it shatters. Oh, that's slightly annoying. But then, is it really fucking annoying? Do you
Yeah.
want to fucking kill someone because that happens? But these things obviously won't be accessible immediately. Um, so I want to put the emphasis on like experimenting with the honesty side of things, and seeing where there's resistance in sort of saying things that you are, like even saying I am a really angry person. Like, do you feel some resistance to that? Do you feel some contraction of like, oh, I wouldn't want to be seen as an angry person or something like that? Because these are all indications that there's, a lot to explore. Um, and I think
And
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say, from what you said, there's a fairly high degree of certainty that there's a lot of suppressed rage to access.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is that, you know, I think everyone that has a really big problem with anger, and especially if you suppressed it. So there are people that kind of become very aggressive, and then there are people who never show any anger, right? That's usually because the person that abused you was extremely aggressive, and therefore, if you showed any anger, that would be very dangerous, right? So what your ego probably does not want is for you to become your abuser.
Yeah.
So I would actually use the word violence instead of, there are certain things that in each person's psyche, like certain words might not work, might not hit a resistance, but it's like, what if you say I'm a violent person, right? Because that could be the same word that you would describe the person that abused you, and you think that, oh, I could never be that person. And so that's one big resistance. Um, and then the other thing I was going to say about the reason why going to a retreat and smacking something, right? Or probably will have no effect, is because there's nothing real happening. So if you just have a bunch of women in a forest or something and it's like start hitting and screaming, that's almost nothing. Unless somebody has a lot of something just happened to them and then they scream, that would work. But if
Mm.
nothing real has happened, it's very fake, because if you're with your husband, like I was saying about Elena, that is real and that is in the moment. And that has a very different effect. So if somebody said something to you, irritated you, and they walked away, and then that may make you even more angry that they didn't even give you a chance to speak. In that moment, it's fresh. It's fresh. But if you try to create rage with nothing, nothing moves. And
Uh,
so I would say that that's the key. In the exact moment, can you, if your husband does something or say something, can you go in that moment to the bathroom and silently, if he's in the house, say something to him that you wish you could say, that we said, like F you, or and maybe do that with a physical, because maybe you don't want to be seen as a violent person, and then that could start moving things.
yeah. 100% about the live. I had the retreat thing highlighted as well, as it has to come from a genuine trigger. It's like live electricity, or imagine like you actually have a flame to light a fire with the trigger. On a retreat, it might happen that there might be a trigger, but if there's no trigger, then you can't work with it. And if you haven't accessed real triggers to anger yet at all, then there's no way that you could access real anger. Um, there's one other thing. No, I think it's gone. Um,
And I was just going to add one more. Oh, and I was going to say, I forgot to, I don't know how long it's been.
um,
Oh, did you?
I started recording at the time after the first question, and it's 45 minutes after that, but it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. And one thing I was going, because I know her a little bit. So what I wanted to say is that um, within the spiritual community, even, she likes to use the word soul. I'm not going to
Yeah.
get into that, but I think that there is this image. that the soul, the higher self, is this absolutely loving thing that could never be an abuser, that could never be this violent, evil person. And what I want to say about that is, I said it in the first Q&A, the most powerful love, if you want to call it that, which is the only love there isn't like higher and lower, but I have to use words. The pure love that you think is the soul's love or God's love is so strong that it is a container, and it will never judge even a psychopath, even the worst possible human being, even Adolf Hitler. There is no limit. That love holds anything inside. That is what unconditional love is. So there is a lot of hesitation in the spiritual community to go a little bit too deep in the darkness, because there's this idea that only if I'm kind and loving am I being love. And I'll say it again, like in the first Q&A, that love is like very, very shallow, because real love is so strong that it can look evil in the eye, and it's just going to look at it. It's not, it can't judge it. It can't have any thoughts about it. It will just look at it. And in fact, in the looking, it is embracing it and saying, I don't judge you. You're just pain that I'm going to love. Right.
Yeah, I just remembered what I had forgotten, which is in my experience with anger, I said this in the last one as well, that I noticed that I judged angry people or people expressing anger a lot. But then on top of that, I also wouldn't accept in my ego that that was true and would think that I wasn't someone that judged angry people because I didn't want to be a judgmental person. So you could also check in with yourself if that on any level is true. Do you not want to be seen as judgmental? That's pretty much everyone. But beneath that is their judgment. Like if you see someone who's angry, do you think they're like silly, pathetic, um, undisciplined, anything like this? Can be very helpful because if any of that's true, then the finger is, pointing back. Um, Another thing you could check is did you not like the answer that we gave? Because because uh that could also be helpful. If there's a lot of no, 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 that's not me, then um
You could even direct your hate at us.
yeah, yeah, of course.
When you're alone, those idiots.
Yeah, yeah, that's completely true. I mean, anyone, but especially us. Okay.